I wasn't even home when she told me. That's the part that still messes with my head. I was sitting alone in my car in a grocery store parking lot, engine off, staring at the steering wheel because I couldn't remember why I came there in the first place. My phone buzzed. One message. From my wife, Mara. Just so you know, I'm going on a date tonight. No build-up. No argument before it. No fight that morning. Just that sentence, dropped into my life like a brick through glass. I reread it maybe 15 times. My hands started shaking, so I set the phone down on the passenger seat like it was dangerous. People walked past my car with shopping carts, living normal lives, while mine quietly collapsed in a Kroger parking lot. I typed back something pathetic and deleted it. Typed again. Deleted. My chest felt tight, like I was being slowly sat on by an invisible person who hated me. After 10 minutes, I finally wrote, "Are you serious?" 3 dots appeared instantly. Yes. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just yes, like I'd asked if it was raining. I drove home in a daze. I don't even remember the drive. I remember sitting at red lights, wondering if everyone else knew something I didn't. Like there was a memo sent out saying Mara's marriage is officially over. Don't tell him yet. When I walked into the house, it was eerily quiet. No TV, no music, just the hum of the fridge. Her shoes were gone. Her coat was gone. She'd already left. That's when I noticed it. On the dining table, placed very neatly, was a folded piece of paper. Not a note, not a letter, a printed calendar page. Today's date circled in red marker. And next to it, written in her handwriting, "Tonight I choose myself." I sat down hard in the chair like my legs gave out. I stared at that sentence until it stopped looking like English. 6 years of marriage reduced to a motivational quote. I should have cried. I wanted to cry. But instead, my brain started doing this awful inventory of the last year. Every late night, every work thing, every time she looked through me instead of at me, every time she said I was too sensitive when I asked why she felt so far away. I'm not a strong guy. I don't mean emotionally. I mean in general. I apologize when strangers bump into me. I rehearse conversations that never happen. I blame myself first, always. So my first thought wasn't how could she do this? It was what did I do wrong? I checked my phone again. No new messages. Then, without thinking too much, because thinking is what ruins me, I did something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I replied, not with anger, not with begging. I typed one sentence. Just one. Calm. Simple. Honest. And I hit send. 5 minutes later, my phone started ringing. Over and over. Missed call after missed call. Then texts. Long ones. Broken ones. Panicked ones. That's when I knew. Whatever I said, it hit harder than she expected. And I was still sitting there, shaking, wondering how a man like me ended up holding the only sentence that could stop her cold. I didn't expect her to call. Not that fast. Not that many times. The phone lit up with Mara's name almost immediately after I sent the message. I just stared at it, buzzing violently on the table like it was trying to escape. I couldn't answer. My hands were numb. My mouth was dry. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. The quiet in the house somehow got louder. And then, just like that, it stopped ringing. She texted, "What is wrong with you?" Then, "Where did you get that?" Then, "Who told you?" I didn't respond. I just stood there, numb, floating. My mind kept flashing back to the moment I found the folder. 2 weeks ago, while cleaning out the attic, I was looking for the old Christmas decorations and stumbled across a dusty plastic bin I didn't recognize. Inside it was an old tablet Mara used years ago, the one she said had a cracked screen and wasn't worth fixing. It still worked. It had no passcode, and it had a synced messaging app. Hundreds of messages, some with someone named Jay, others with a name saved only as Midnight. Photos, screenshots, plans, hotel confirmations, all dated while we were married. Some while I was home with a stomach flu, some on the night of my birthday. The message I'd sent her today, the one that shattered her, it was just 5 words. "You left the tablet unlocked." She called again. I declined it. I finally started moving. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. I opened the fridge, took out the orange juice, poured it into the wrong mug. My hands were shaking too hard to care. The door slammed. She was home. I heard her heels clicking down the hall like gunshots. I didn't even turn around. She stormed into the kitchen, still wearing that same sleek black dress she left in. Her makeup was smudged. Her hair looked rushed. But her eyes were pure fury. "What?" Did you? Read? She hissed. Still, I didn't answer. She walked closer, tried to snatch my phone off the table, but I slid it into my pocket. That sent her into a full panic. Everett, don't do this. You're being dramatic, she said, like she hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb on our marriage through text and walked out like it was brunch. Who is Jay? I asked, finally turning to face her. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound. And who the hell is Midnight? I added. Now she looked pale, like all the blood drained out of her. She sat down, slowly, like her legs gave out. Her breathing was shallow. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, because I didn't trust myself to move. If I moved, I'd scream. Or shatter. Or both. You weren't supposed to see that, she finally whispered. I wasn't supposed to see years of you lying to my face. I snapped back, my voice cracking like cheap glass. She looked at me, and for the first time in forever, I saw something real on her face. Not coldness, not distance, but fear. Pure, vulnerable, human fear. You don't understand, Everett. I was lonely. You never listened. You always. Don't you dare blame me. I said, my voice low now. Shaky. Almost gone. You had options. You had a mouth. You could have said something. Instead, you had Midnight. She started crying. But it didn't work on me this time. Not anymore. I walked out of the kitchen, straight to the guest room, locked the door behind me, and I finally let myself break down in private. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Not even close. Because what I hadn't told her yet was that I wasn't the only one who read those messages. I didn't sleep that night. I laid there on the guest room mattress staring up at the ceiling fan, which made this awful ticking sound like a broken clock trying to remind me that time was running out. I could hear Mara pacing outside the door. Sometimes she'd stop. Sometimes I heard her whispering into her phone. Once, I thought I heard her crying. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. What was I supposed to say? Sorry for opening a tablet you lied about for 3 years. Sorry I ruined your date with Midnight. Around 3:12 a.m., she slipped a note under the door. I didn't pick it up. I didn't even look at it until morning. When I finally unfolded it, it was short. 6 sentences, written in her quick, dramatic handwriting. You weren't supposed to see that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I'll explain everything. Please don't tell anyone. Please. I didn't reply. Not with a note. Not with words. Instead, I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and drove straight to the one person who deserved to know what I'd found, her older sister, Tanya. Now, before you judge me, I wasn't trying to ruin Mara's family ties. But Tanya had always been the one person who defended me. During arguments, holidays, even the wedding planning, when Mara treated me like I was just another item on her checklist, Tanya would pull me aside and say things like, "She loves you. She just doesn't know how to show it right now." She was wrong. Mara knew exactly how to show love. She just chose to show it to someone named Midnight. Tanya opened the door in sweatpants and a robe. "Everett," she blinked. "It's barely 7 a.m. Are you okay?" "No," I said, voice cracking. "Do you have coffee?" She let me in, sat me down, handed me a steaming mug, and waited. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her everything, starting from the text in the parking lot, the tablet, the voice messages, the panic, the guilt trips, all of it. I didn't expect her to believe me right away, but I also didn't expect that reaction. Tanya went dead silent. Her eyes didn't blink. She pressed her fingers to her lips and just stared at the floor. And then she said, "Everett, you need to hear something." She got up, went into the other room, came back with her phone, and pulled up a folder in her audio recordings. I didn't even know people save that kind of thing, but what she played next almost made me throw up. It was Mara, talking to someone, a girlfriend, maybe, laughing, mocking me, saying things like, "Honestly, it's just nice to feel wanted again. Everett's like a wallpaper now. Always there, always boring. I just tune him out. No, he has no idea. He still tries to make me breakfast on Sundays. It's pathetic. I don't even feel bad. I'm just waiting until I can leave without having to deal with the drama." I couldn't breathe. Tanya stopped the recording halfway through, maybe out of mercy. "I recorded that last month," she said quietly. She didn't know I was in the kitchen. She thought I was still out back. "I was going to tell you, but I was scared it wasn't my place." I just sat there, numb again. It's weird how quickly you can go from heartbreak to humiliation. Like your brain gives up trying to make sense of it, and just starts writing you out of the script. I left Tanya's house without another word. When I got home, Mara was sitting on the couch like a scolded child, wearing pajamas and yesterday's mascara. "You were gone all morning," she said, voice small. I didn't answer. I just tossed her note onto the coffee table. "I'm going to make this simple," I said quietly. "You have 3 choices." She looked up. 1. You tell the truth. To me, to your family, to everyone you've lied to. 2. I tell them. All of it. Screenshots, recordings, everything. Or 3. You leave, and we pretend none of this happened, and I file on Monday. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't crying anymore. And I think, for the first time in years, she realized I wasn't the man she thought she could walk over. But the most shocking part? She didn't choose any of the 3. She chose something worse. She chose to lie again. Not directly to my face this time, but with performance. With a new kind of manipulation. She didn't scream, didn't deny. Instead, she slumped forward, covered her face with both hands, and started sobbing like she'd just been told someone had died. Her, the victim, the betrayed. It was like watching someone audition for sympathy. "I made a mistake," she cried into her palms. "I was so lonely, Everett, and you were always so cold, so distant. I just needed to feel something. I didn't know how to tell you without breaking everything." There it was again, the rewritten history. Somehow, I was the one with a knife in my hand, not her. Somehow, my working late to pay off her student debt became emotional neglect. Me trying to surprise her with anniversary dinners became pressure. Me not cheating became emotional distance. And her sleeping with someone named Midnight became therapy? I said nothing. I'd learned by now that silence hits harder than begging. Her words started to fall apart faster the longer I didn't respond. She shifted from sobbing to sniffling, from sniffling to mumbling, from mumbling to angry. "You think you're some perfect husband?" she snapped suddenly, lifting her head. "You think being boring and nice is enough to keep someone around?" There it was. The mask dropped, and I almost thanked her for finally saying it. I didn't argue. I just walked past her, opened the hallway closet, and pulled out the black duffel bag I'd packed days ago, just in case. She saw it and stood up like she'd been electrocuted. "You're leaving?" she asked, incredulous. "You're actually leaving me over this?" I turned around slowly and looked her dead in the eyes. "No, Mara," I said. "You already left. You just forgot to take your body with you." That shut her up. I walked out, got into my car, and drove without direction for over an hour. I ended up at a park we used to walk through before everything got complicated. Back when we held hands without trying. I sat on a bench watching ducks float in frozen silence, trying to remember what peace even felt like. My phone was still buzzing every few minutes with her name, her texts. Then something strange happened. A new number called. No name. No area code I recognized. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. I answered. "Is this Everett?" a man's voice asked. Calm. Low. Almost too calm. "Yes," I said hesitantly. "This is Jonah," he said. "I'm the guy she was supposed to be on a date with." Everything inside me tightened. My spine straightened. I felt like I'd swallowed a brick. What?" I stammered. "I got your message," he continued. Well, her message. But clearly, you were the one who sent it. Or at least, I'm guessing it was you who told her to ask if I knew about the tablet. I didn't respond. "She broke down in the car halfway to the restaurant," he said. "Pulled over. Started sobbing and told me she wasn't ready to face consequences. I drove her back. She barely said a word the whole ride." I still didn't know what to say. Was this guy calling to fight? To apologize? To confess? "She told me you were boring," he added. "That you were clueless. That you'd never leave her." I swallowed hard. "Everett, I think I was part of a story she was telling herself. I don't want any part of it anymore. I didn't know you. I didn't know the truth. I'm sorry." And just like that, he hung up. No defense. No excuses. Just a clean exit. He wanted out before her damage swallowed him, too. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. Then, I opened my texts. Mara had sent 23 messages in a row. Some angry, some tearful, some begging. One simply said, "You're not allowed to just disappear." But that's exactly what I was planning to do. Not out of revenge. Out of survival. And I knew where I was going next. Because if I was going to rebuild my life, I needed to go back to the place where I'd buried the first signs of who I really was. Back before Mara, before the lies, before I traded my voice for her approval. She thought this was over. She had no idea what I still had. I didn't go back home that night. Instead, I drove to the storage unit I'd forgotten I even paid for. The key was still on my ring, buried behind duplicates and bike locks. I hadn't been there in over 4 years, not since Mara told me to declutter my life. I remember how she said it like it was a kindness, but it was really her way of erasing the parts of me she found embarrassing. My guitar, my journals, even my box of old letters and photos. She called it hoarding sentiment. I opened the unit and was hit with the cold smell of dust and sealed cardboard. But there it was, the trunk I kept locked with a rusted latch. I popped it open, and everything I had hidden from her judgment came rushing back. Notes I'd written during our first year of marriage, recordings I'd made when I started sensing things were off, and one more thing I had almost forgotten, a backup hard drive. The same one I used when I worked freelance tech support for her company. The one I was asked to wipe clean and return to her boss. I never did. She said he didn't need it anymore and told me to toss it. But I didn't. And it turns out, it still worked. I plugged it into my laptop at the nearby motel I checked into under a fake name. The files were old, messy, unorganized, but some of them weren't just documents. They were screen recordings from Mara's work laptop, installed by me, at her request, when she suspected her creepy coworker was reading her emails. Ironic. And there, in a folder buried 3 layers deep, was a file named Do Not Open _personal. Guess what I did? It opened to a series of video clips. One of them showed Mara, at her office, leaning way too close to a man I recognized as her old manager. The same one she swore was married with kids and strictly professional. But the worst part wasn't the flirting. It was the audio, her voice saying, he still doesn't know. I could cheat in front of him, and he'd probably apologize for making me feel unloved. I had to pause it. My stomach turned. My face flushed hot, then cold. This wasn't new. It wasn't about Jonah. It wasn't just about midnight. This had been going on for years. Layered. Strategic. Like I was married to someone who viewed me not as a partner, but as a blind, useful placeholder. And all this time, I thought I'd just been too soft. Too passive, too trusting. But now I realized I was targeted. And suddenly, that anger I'd swallowed for years, it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. Because I had spent years helping her look good while she quietly made me feel small. And now, I had something no text, no crying, no apology could wipe away. I had proof, and it was time I used it. I didn't sleep at the motel. Not because the bed was uncomfortable. Honestly, it was better than the one Mara and I shared, but because my brain was vibrating with too much noise. Rage, hurt, guilt, betrayal, it all crashed against each other like waves in a storm. But underneath that storm, something else had started to grow. Clarity. By 5 a.m., I had a plan. I wasn't going to confront her with yelling or a dramatic scene. That's what she'd expect. Something messy she could twist into look how unstable he is. No, I wanted silence. I wanted calculation. I wanted her to feel what I felt for years. Confused, powerless, cornered. First, I made copies of the hard drive. 3, on different USB sticks. One went in my glove compartment. One I mailed to myself. The third, that one would be delivered. I drafted an email. A very polite, professional one. Addressed to her company's HR department and CC'd to 2 executives whose names I remembered from a holiday party she once made me attend like a prop. I didn't make accusations. I just attached 3 video files, time-stamped, unedited, and included a note. For documentation purposes, please advise if further steps are necessary. I didn't send it yet. I scheduled it. Monday morning, 8:17 a.m., just after the team meeting she usually led. Next, I called Tanya, her sister. I told her I needed her help with something serious and private. She didn't hesitate. By 9:30 a.m., I was parked a few blocks away from the house. I sent Mara one message. Gone for good. Don't try to find me. Then I turned off location sharing, changed my cloud password, logged out of our shared streaming services. Every little string I had been tethered to, I cut one by one. Then came the last piece. I gave Tanya a sealed envelope. Inside were 3 things: the USB drive, a printed screenshot from her midnight messages, and a handwritten note I'd spent hours rewriting until it said exactly what I wanted. You don't get to rewrite this. You don't get to spin it. You don't get to cry your way into sympathy. Not this time. I know everything, and now, so will they. You can lie to yourself, but not to the truth. Tanya asked, "You sure you want to go through with this?" I nodded. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She looked heartbroken. For me, not for her sister. And that alone almost broke me. But I had no tears left. I left before Mara got back home. I didn't want to see her face when Tanya handed her that envelope. I didn't want to hear the excuses, or the rage, or the desperate spin cycle of half-truths she'd inevitably throw at everyone. Because this wasn't about her anymore. This was about getting me back. And I had one final card to play. She thought I'd disappear quietly. She had no idea I was about to become louder in silence than I ever was in pain. I didn't hear from her that Sunday. Not a single word. It was eerie, like the silence before a building collapses. I kept checking my phone, even though I told myself I wouldn't. Not because I wanted her back. God, no. But because I knew something was coming. And I wasn't wrong. Monday arrived like a slow punch to the gut. I sat in the diner across from her office building, sipping the world's worst coffee, watching the lobby like a man waiting for a train wreck he already predicted. At 8:17 a.m. sharp, the email sent. No turning back. By 8:32, Mara stormed out of the building. She wasn't dressed for work. She was dressed like she'd thrown on whatever clothes she found in the dark. Her phone was pressed to her ear, her steps wild and uncoordinated. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her expression told me everything. Whatever response she got from her superiors wasn't the one she wanted. She looked cornered, and then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered with my stomach in my throat. It wasn't Mara. It was her manager. Everett, this is Alan. I'm not sure what's going on exactly, but we received something this morning, and I need to ask, did you really record this yourself? His tone was measured, professional, but I could hear the tension under it. I told the truth. I explained the tablet, the synced files, how I discovered them. I didn't embellish. I didn't threaten. I just said, I wanted you to see what I've been living with. I'm not looking to destroy anyone. I just want my name separated from her lies. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, finally, he said something I didn't expect. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. And that was it. He hung up. No revenge. No fireworks. Just acknowledgement. And honestly, that was more healing than I expected. A few hours later, Tanya texted me. She lost it. That's all she wrote. But I knew what it meant. Apparently, Mara tried to flip the story, accuse me of spying, call me vindictive, even claimed I doctored the evidence. But it didn't stick. Her tone, her reaction, the timestamps, it all worked against her. HR was opening a formal investigation. Her image? Cracked. But what really broke her wasn't her job. It was the second envelope. Tanya had delivered that one too, this time to our closest couple friends. The ones Mara always used for social clout. Inside was a copy of the same message, the same screenshots, and one brutal closing line from me. Before you choose sides, know that silence makes you complicit. Ask her what midnight meant. By evening, her group chats had exploded. The support she expected wasn't there. Some people ghosted her completely. Others texted me privately, apologizing for never asking questions when things felt off. Mara called me 7 times that night. I didn't answer. She sent one final message at 11:48 p.m. Congratulations. You've ruined me. I stared at that text for a long time, feeling nothing. Not triumph. Not guilt. Just stillness. A calm I hadn't known in years. Because the truth is, I didn't ruin her. She handed me the pieces. I just finally stopped taping them back together. It's been 6 months. 6 months since that night she texted me, thinking she was announcing some bold, independent move, when really, she was just confirming everything I had feared but hadn't yet proven. It took time to crawl out of the wreckage of our marriage. It wasn't like flipping a switch. I didn't magically wake up stronger or wiser. At first, I stayed in that motel too long. Ate microwave dinners. Missed meetings. I spiraled for a bit, if I'm honest. I kept wondering what made her do it. What made me ignore all the signs? What made love turn into performance and survival? But then something shifted. Maybe it was when I finally returned to my storage unit and pulled out my old notebook, the one where I used to sketch ideas for starting my own business. Maybe it was when I visited my parents for the first time in 3 years, and my mom hugged me longer than usual, like she already knew I'd been broken and didn't need me to say a word. Or maybe it was the day I stood in front of the mirror and, for the first time in years, didn't see a shadow of a man staring back. I started freelancing again, slowly, carefully, taking on small IT contracts, then bigger ones, then referrals. I worked from a coffee shop where no one knew my name, and no one called me too sensitive when I politely asked for quiet. One afternoon, I helped the shop owner fix a broken security system. Her name was Lacey. Not flashy, not dramatic, just kind. The kind of person who doesn't interrupt when you talk, who doesn't make you feel like your presence is an inconvenience. She offered me free coffee for a week as a thank you. I ended up showing up every day for a month. We'd talk, then we laughed. Then I started showing up even on the days when the Wi-Fi worked perfectly. No labels yet, no pressure, just real. Last week, I got a letter in the mail from Mara. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. It wasn't dramatic. No threats, no manipulation, just a single page. I know you probably hate me, and I deserve it. But I want you to know, I finally started therapy. Not for you, for me. You were right about everything. I hope you found peace. And someone who listens. I didn't reply, not because I'm bitter, but because I don't need to. She doesn't live rent-free in my head anymore. That space is quiet now. That space is mine. If you told me a year ago that I'd come out of this whole thing better, I would have laughed. I thought the best years of my life ended the moment she walked out that door in a black dress. But now, I realize that night was just the start. The start of my life, without the lies, without the weight, and finally, without her.